Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. We have one absent commissioner this evening, Commissioner Crane.
Present.
I'm sorry, Hudson.
Oh,
My apologies.
that's all right.
All right. Agenda item number 2, citizen communication. The Planning and Zoning Commission welcomes comment on items relevant to the Planning and Zoning Commission not already scheduled on tonight's agenda. In accordance with the Texas Attorney General's opinion, any public comment that is made on an item that is not on the published final agenda will only be heard by the Commission. No formal action, discussion, deliberation, or comment will be made by the Commission. Each person providing public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone present wishing to address the Commission? I do have 5 folks who signed up for a particular agenda item, so this would be anything outside of that. All right. Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Item 3, this will be discussion only. 3A, regarding the Downtown East update.
Good evening, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be before you this evening. I'm here to provide you an update on Downtown East every several months. We like to give you a status update of where we are. And we're at a really exciting point in the development and coming before you all as the Planning and Zoning Commission, you'll be seeing a lot more of this project over the next several months. And so I want to give you a little update on that. So just to make sure everyone's oriented, the Downtown East project's the 29-acre tract located at the northwest corner of Pecan and 685. And the city purchased this property December of 2021 to be our future home of a new city hall, recreation center, and a mixed-use development. And we've currently partnered with a master developer to help us through a public-private partnership to help deliver this project for the community. When establishing this project, City Council set aside 19 goals, and we won't read through all of them, and it's small, and we'll certainly remind you of these as each entitlement step we go through these. But these are the key pieces that we look for as we're moving through the project, and we'll want to make sure that you all help us to ensure that we're delivering on these goals that Council has identified for this project. The first one, generally, and we look at this, I think this really covers a lot of them, is a vibrant, equitable, walkable neighborhood where people live, work, shop, play, as well as engage with city government. And that's really a great umbrella for the other 18 goals established for this project. We'll be sure to share these with you in your packets as you start to begin seeing development applications. And here are the other 8 there. So where we are, this is a timeline you've seen previously. And as I mentioned, we started with acquisition of the land in 2021. We've been through quite a few portion of the project. There are a lot of details, as you all know, probably better than any of our other boards and commissions, because you get to see so many of the applications for development. And so we're looking at everything from floodplain to traffic to what are the buildings going to look like, what are the public engagement opportunities, to the parks pieces that will be constructed with this project. So right now we're into the design phase. We're also starting to get, we'll have another opportunity for public engagement at Slice of Pflugerville later this month. With that, we'll start the entitlement process. So in the next couple of months, you'll start seeing the zoning application for this project, as well as the subdivision applications will come before you over the summertime. Here's just some high-level concepts. We're still feathering out a lot of details, but wanted to kind of bring these forward to you to kind of start the thought processes going. So the 29 acres there, and I kind of in the transparent blocks, that's going to be phase 2. But in phase 1, we'll be delivering City Hall, which is the blue block on the south side of Main Street, which you see there, that southernmost street. The other blue block that fronts on FM 685 is the Recreation Center. Adjacent to that is approximately 1 acre plaza, which you see just generally detailed there on the far right, which will have kinds of play space and gathering areas and opportunities, and we're working out all of what those details would look like before bringing those to you to get your feedback on those. But really a great place to engage. Also coming with phase 1 will be 10,500 square feet of retail in the recreation center, as well as additional cafe space on the City Hall side. So we'll see that mix of government open space and retail commercial uses in phase one. And the balance, we're still working on some additional details, but we'll cover live, work, and play opportunities as well. So coming up, as I mentioned, we'll be working through the entitlement process with you all and then into City Council. Our next community engagement opportunities with a slice of Pflugerville, we'll have a booth there showing off some more of the concept designs. We have whole group of architect teams helping us to really bring the vision to life, and so we'll have some more images to share at that time too, engage some further feedback from our community, and we still anticipate construction to begin at the end of this year. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have a question. Could you go back one slide?
Sure.
I don't see any access points on the north and northwest corners from that Maplewood, Applewood neighborhood, whatever, I can't remember the name of that neighborhood. Is that intentional?
So Main Street is not shown in this image, but Main Street will continue west to connect to Railroad. But there are no road connections into the residential that exists to the north or to the
That's
west.
the only complaint I've ever heard is they're worried about traffic in that neighborhood. It's like, I don't think there's any access.
It doesn't, right. The roadways don't connect. We are hopeful that it's such a vibrant development that we'll have the requests for additional connections, be it pedestrians or otherwise. But there's really no roadway connection opportunities to that neighborhood, but we do are hoping to enhance the pedestrian connections along 685, our trail system, and Main Street.
Super, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Is the Main Street extension part of either the first or second phase?
Main Street, the infrastructure related for water and wastewater are all related to phase one. So Main Street will come
all
from
coming
Railroad to 685 in the first phase. Anything else? Awesome. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
All right, our next agenda item, 3B, discussion regarding the 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2025 through 2029.
Hi, good evening. Abby Morrison, Public Works Services Director. We're here tonight to present the draft annual 5-year CIP for fiscal years 25 through 29. There's no action to be taken today. This is the draft. We'll be back on the May 6th meeting to request formal action at that time. So the CIP is a multi-year planning document that identifies and prioritizes and tracks capital costs typically over $50,000. This plan is updated annually, which is approved as part of the annual budget. So tonight we have a Public Works Management group here that will be presenting each program throughout. And with that, I will turn it over to Cindy Bro, our CIP Program Manager.
Good evening, Commissioners. How are you doing this evening? This is going to be a brief overview. We're going to introduce new FY25 CIP projects, review the definition and purpose of the CIP, explain the alignment with Aspire 2040, go over the basis for project development, define the CIP program areas, and touch on the project schedule and why that's so important. The purpose, here, let me catch you up there. The purpose of the CIP is it's a critical long-term investment plan to help support our economic vitality and promote livable neighborhoods. The projects include planning studies, designs, construction, and all these projects vary in length of time. We refine and approve these projects annually, and that they're over a 5-year span. So this is FY25 through 29. There are 8 program areas: transportation, water, wastewater, reclaimed water, drainage, parks, technology, and facilities. This year we do not have any technology projects listed. We will keep that category though, because next year something might come up when we come back to you, but for now there's none. Aspire is a comprehensive visionary plan created through community engagement to determine goals and aspirations that will be used by our high-growth city to express public policy and initiate projects. So we keep the projects diverse and equitable, fiscally responsible, environmentally sustainable, community-oriented, safe and healthy, and we provide economic opportunities all over the city, so everyone gets something. The 5-year CIP alignment with Aspire. Aspire, we have the transportation mobility, infrastructure, community facilities, and public services as our goals. And we deliver that through the FY25 CIP through transportation, trails, and sidewalks, water, wastewater, reclaimed water, and the city building facilities and parks. The capital improvement implementation. We identify and plan citywide capital needs in a 5-year horizon timeline. We ensure that the design of the projects meets the intended use and that we have operations and maintenance plans for those projects, and we comply with the regulatory requirements. We manage the construction of the projects to be able to stay on budget and schedule online delivery. The CIP project selection, we're designed to plan, prioritize, and coordinate capital improvement projects to meet just today's needs and also future needs. And the projects are based on our comprehensive plan, Aspire, master plans that are adopted every 3 to 5 years, infrastructure condition reports, our citizen requests for service, and growth and development. This year, we're excited to have a new form for these projects. We've got a new program that works with our finance department. And so we have a better way of tracking both the costs and the funding needs through this program. So we think that this is going to be a much better way to keep track and keep things going on time. The project scope, justification, cost, and funding and schedule will be within this program. The capital costs tonight, we're just going to be focusing on the FY25. So that will be something's coming up. The funding sources that we have are COs, GO bonds, which the voters approve, federal grants, water infrastructure, or the WIFIA program that I think you guys have heard a little bit about earlier. The TERS, Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone, impact fees, CAMPO, which is a Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, utilities funds, and some other, there's a lot of them. There's just not enough boxes on here. Texas Water Development Board's another huge one that we use. Just to let you kind of know, we have 130 projects this year, and during this 5-year span, there are $1.8 billion worth of costs for those. So I know you guys have seen in the book that there's 2.165. Those include a little bit farther out, some projects that roll into past 29. So that's why there's a difference there. And now I'm going to turn it over to our good friend, Evan Goshel, who's the Director of Operations, and he'll talk to you about the transportation.
Hello, thank you for having us. Again, my name is Edmund Gershel. I'm the Operations Director for Public Works. And so I'll be talking, I'm not a guru of transportation because I oversee traffic and transportation, but also other operational things. But good news is the experts are here. So anyway, we're talking about transportation and mobility, and we kind of take it from a different approach. We think of it more of like a mobility master plan instead of transportation master plan, because we're not just moving vehicles, we're also moving people, and we have to think about how we implement. We have to do innovative engineering, thoughtful innovation, and then implementation as well. So we have to think about all of the pieces fit so that while we're making improvements, we don't impede traffic flow and maintain efficiency. So we do that with roadways. We also do that with signals, our traffic control devices. We also look at technology. How are we managing our operations? So, for example, Advanced Traffic Management System is something that we'll have online in a couple of a couple of months. What that is it's a computerized program so that we can manage our traffic signal network. And what that does is it helps push us notifications if something goes wrong so that we can act more expeditiously. It also kind of shows us the performance trends at signalized intersections, but it also helps us program timing remotely and that sort of thing. So it just helps us maintain our network more efficiently in our traffic flow. But also looking at intersections, how do we design and how do we implement intersection improvements? Do we just use traffic signal devices, or do we also think about how we design it? Do we do roundabouts? We have to look at all the innovative intersection options. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, so 48 projects are listed here. This is just kind of to illustrate how vast the improvements are. So yeah, you can see intersection projects, roadway projects, and then also kind of shows it within our city limits there. Old Austin Hodo, just to name one of them. So that'll help create that, when we're talking about efficiency of traffic flow, that'll help create the connection so that we won't have so much connection on 685. Same with Wilkie Ridge Lane. That'll connect Heather Wild to Pecan, so you don't have that congestion at Pecan and Heather Wild. I'm sorry, East Louisville Parkway and Heather Wild. Oops. Schultz Lane safety improvements. We actually have an open house with that one at the library on April 10th. Parkway Drive reconstruction. That's also another way to create the efficiency in traffic flow. Oops, missed one. Finnig Lane, just another example, extending Finnig Lane from 685 and connecting over. So these are just, in general, just showing you how these will improve traffic flow by avoiding these major pinch points. So that's just something it's just an example of how we think through project planning and project implementation. Because you don't want to just build an intersection, and then you still have the same problem. Yes, the road's wider, but you still have the same issue. So a lot of thought put into how we implement those and design that. Now, talking about drainage areas, key drainage projects include emphasis on reducing the floodplain impact and creating detention and channel improvements. So just kind of defining what the purpose is there. This is a slide just kind of showing you all the drainage projects that we have coming up. Just again to illustrate but give it context within our city. Downtown regional detention pond. So as Emily was talking about the downtown east project, we have to consider things like drainage impact. What do you do? How do you implement that so that you have less impact or negative impact? Emmanuel, this engineering project, it allows Emmanuel to be passable still during a 10-year storm event. It also removes 25 homes from floodplain and relieving flooding on East Pecan. You might have noticed over the past couple of years we put water gauges, or flood gauges, along these areas where we recognize there's some flooding issues. So doing these drainage improvement projects will obviously help that out a lot. Caldwell Elementary School, or elementary at Upper Gilliland Creek channel improvements. This removes the Caldwell Elementary from the 100-year floodplain. It also creates passable route on Fitzgerald during a flood event and removes 329 homes from the floodplain. So these are critical improvements that need to be made in order to ensure that our infrastructure is safe and maintained. And not just from a capital improvement project standpoint, but also from an operation and maintenance. Because we do have to maintain staff that can maintain these drainage ways. And that was fast, but now I'm going to pass it to Brandon Pritchett, our utility director.
So Good evening, Commissioners. Again, Brandon Pritchett, Utility Director for the city. We oversee the water, wastewater, and reclaimed water, as we'll talk a little bit about. So to give you an update of the water wastewater CIP, so to give you an update on the projects that we have within the water and wastewater CIP, and then also some changes that you may have noticed over the past year or so, or from last year to this year. So we currently have the water treatment plant expansion that was talked about previously at the CIAC meeting. This is currently under construction. You see in that nice rendering, but this is a lot of our projects are to expand either treatment capacity, raw water capacity, as well as transmission capacity across the city. So our water side of the house, you'll notice some of our transmission pipelines that we have in the 5-year CIP. So there's a large 15-mile pipeline that we have going, as well as all of the other transmission pipelines that travel across the city to be able to transmit a large volume of water into the heart of the city's water distribution network. So we also have, but you can see some of those are rehabilitation projects that we have within the 5-year CIP. So we're looking at a lot of the older neighborhoods that maybe have outdated water infrastructure that need to be brought to current standards and current times to remove some older pipeline networks that we have. So some projects that are important for this fiscal year, some ones that are going to be kicking off this year. So we have the 12-inch looping improvements in the 794 pressure plane. So that is to the east of Weiss along Pecan. So if you know where Carmel is, it's generally in that area. So follows along Pecan and goes up to route around to the Carmel development. Currently there's a one-way feed into the Carmel development, and if there were ever any kind of issue with that main feed, they do not have water. So that looping improvement ensures that they have a two-way feed into that neighborhood as it continues to be built out. There's also the water line rehabilitation project that I mentioned previously for the Gatlinburg and Bowles Place neighborhood. Again, these are older neighborhoods that have what's considered AC pipeline. That's asbestos cement. So there's nothing wrong with that pipeline, but if we were to when we have a break in that pipeline, it's hazardous material. So we have to dispose of it properly, which means that we have people with the Tyvek suits on that have to make sure that they're not breathing in the asbestos as well. So it is an outdated pipeline. We want to make sure to remove it in a way that we don't have to dispose of that hazardous waste, and we can pipe burst it in place. And then we have every year we have a ground storage tank or an elevated storage tank rehabilitation project. If you've noticed, we just finished the historic tank this previous few months, and then we have a ground storage tank rehabilitation that's about to kick off, and another one that's going to be happening next year as well. These have all been in our CIP for the past few years, but they continue every year to rehabilitate aging infrastructure to make sure it lasts longer and longer. There we go. So this year we also have our updates, our 5-year updates to our water master plan. So we've come to y'all before for these single year cost updates because the economy's been a little weird with inflation and construction updates. So we wanted to make sure that y'all had updated cost, if we needed to update impact fees, and also understood what the impacts of those were. But every 5 years, we tend to want to make sure that we're modeling growth properly, we're sizing water mains properly, and we are building infrastructure for the next 5 years, and we want to verify that through a modeling process, which is what the water master plan does. So that is a long project. It's a long-term project that will take the majority of the year. It's not just a cost update. So there will be updated development mapping that we see based upon what Aspire 2040 is showing us and where our development is moving towards. So on the wastewater side of the house, so we have, again, same idea with the map. You can see a lot of the interceptor projects that are going in. So you see a lot of our interceptor projects going in, but the big key for those interceptors is we want to get there before the development gets there. So we don't want to have the same problem that we're having with Project 14, where we have to route that through neighborhoods because that's intrusive, and we don't want to do that. It's much more expensive that way as well. So you'll see those interceptors to the east. Our intent with those is to get those in the ground before 10,000 homes are built, because it makes it much more difficult when they're there. And we also have a lot of interior rehabilitation projects. You can see there's a Saxony wastewater rehab project that's going on, as well as collector lines going in along the Lakeside Meadows development as well. So the wastewater projects themselves, we have to expand treatment, as Jeff mentioned earlier about our new wastewater treatment facility that is breaking ground. And then we also have to convey wastewater to that wastewater treatment facility. So decommissioning lift stations and getting gravity interceptors in. So overall, we have 25 wastewater projects within our 5-year CIP. So some key components of this: the Upper New Sweden Interceptor, that is the one in the far east portion of town. I say far east; it's the eastern portion of the CCN. So that collects all the way down to a private seal lift station. So that is a municipal utility district that will have a private lift station there that they will operate and maintain. And then when the city has enough growth along that area, we will be able to construct the second leg of that interceptor, which connects down to the New Sweden lift station, which then pumps to the Wilbarger wastewater treatment facility. So the New Sweden lift station is the one that is on city property that will, in 20, 30, maybe 40 years, will end up being a third wastewater treatment facility because we have 3 distinct sewer sheds that we serve. And each one of these are vitally important to serve our eastern development of our CCN. So we have the onus to serve because we have that CCN, and we need to make sure that we can do so. So reclaimed water. So I've come and spoke with y'all about reclaimed water. I love to talk about reclaimed water, or purple pipe, or indirect potable, or potable reuse. So I love talking about this all day, but I won't bore y'all with all the details. So project 1 is the water line we have going to the 1849 park that is already under contract, and we're moving that forward as quickly as we can because the 1849 park currently purchases water from Manville Water Supply Corporation to irrigate the facility. Project 2 is the line that goes up Weiss Lane, which is branching off of that line once it's constructed and allows us to serve all of those high schools or the schools along the Weiss Lane corridor, as well as a lot of the multifamily developments that are coming in along that corridor, and multifamily and industrial along that corridor as well. So our intent with this is also to make sure that we're the customer first, so 1849 Park being the first customer, and allow those developments to come to us because reclaimed water is much cheaper than potable water, both from our point of view to treat and transmit it, as well as from us from a potable water standpoint because it's less demand on our potable water system. But currently we only have the 2 reclaimed projects within the 5-year CIP. As that system begins to grow and we've received more and more customers, we will start adding on to that CIP as we talked about whenever I brought the master plan to y'all previously. So, like I mentioned, the reclaimed water line along Weiss Lane, that is a large one, but it also allows us to move a lot of reclaimed water up along that corridor along Weiss Lane that we're very excited about to be able to remove those industrial and multifamily customers off of irrigating with potable water. And with that was super fast, but I'll be here for questions. With that, I'm going to move over to Parks Projects with Shane, and then if Katie, if she needs.
Musical chairs. I'll go, and then if there's any specific questions, and again, the experts are here. So, as Katie mentioned earlier, right now we are managing Parks capital improvement projects, as well as traffic, transportation, and infrastructure. There's about 23 parks projects, but that also includes parks recreation and open space master planning, as well as trail corridor studies. And then here again is just to kind of illustrate what that looks like in context with the city outline, the outline of the city. We also have facility projects coming up. This includes City Hall, Public Works Complex, citywide master planning, facility condition assessment, and also ADA master planning. Something we're currently doing is working on life cycle modeling, maintenance program development, and we're bringing that to council pretty soon. We're kind of buttoning up the fine details, but what this will really do is provide the city with kind of a layout of what to do, when, and how. So that when it comes to budgeting and even operation and maintenance scheduling, all that stuff is kind of defined for us. That way you kind of know your defined budget. And it also helps you as you complete work, updates what we call the FCR, facility condition index. So you kind of get a health measurement on all your facilities. Just kind of helps you get a handle on how you operate. But we also are working on our facility master plan, looking at other cities, studying their master plans, how they went about the process. So that's something that we're currently working on. And then again, to give it context, this is where they are laid out in the city. Any question? Well, we can talk about talk about that later, but the schedule for adoption of the CIP adoption is as you can see it above. So our goal is to have formal adoption with the FY24 budget September 24th, 2024. And with that, we're here to answer questions if you have any.
I had, I guess, a few general questions slash comments. I think one of the things that we added to the overall planning communication last year was making sure that the strategic pillars were called out.
Okay.
I didn't see that on the new view of the reporting. I think that's a really useful tool to be able to tell the story of, you know, whether which pillars each project aligns to. If I missed that, feel free to point it out. But I didn't see that on the template.
Justification?
Yeah, I guess I was looking for something specific to the value strategic, the actual pillar. So I don't know if you'd want. You maybe mention it in the justifications, but I think it's worth calling out in some way so that it's a little bit easier to see which exact one it applies to. I also think, and again, I may have missed something. I think it's really useful, especially when you're looking at water and drainage projects, to add the impact or the outcome. So I know drainage, you all typically do that planning, right? Of you can say it's 200 homes, 1,000 homes, 10 businesses. I think including that in the justification would be useful. Again, I could have missed it, but the few that I flipped through, I didn't see the counts. I think that's really valuable to show how important it is to prioritize those types of projects.
Okay.
What other notes did I have? One thing I think especially, not necessarily saying that you should go back and retroactively do this, but I think for the major projects, it would potentially be useful, and this is something that we've kind of talked about with some projects last year, I remember as well. A lot of the especially large capital projects involve other entities. I think in some way calling that out is an important lever here, right? So whether it's a collaborative project where we already know we're going to have to work with Williamson County, or this is something that's going to directly impact the ISD. Some of that, again, not necessarily going to change the prioritization, but I think it's useful when you're looking at a set of projects to understand what some of those, I don't want to call it dependencies at this point, since this is just really high-level project planning and budget planning, but that would be something that I think would be useful. I think those were my general comments of just as I was looking through this, and that would be helpful to further look at the individual projects.
I didn't have any questions, but I did want to comment. I appreciate how the longer I'm here, the easier it is to be like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, I remember that. You guys are really consistent in bringing information to us. And then I'll just tack on to Jonathan's comment about the impact. I know on the reclaimed water, you already know off the top of your head all the impacts, so that shouldn't be a... I am excited to see that we are already going out to Weiss to serve the schools. I know that was a major, that's going to be a major saver of water for us is getting, so kudos to you on getting a school. Because I know that wasn't a done deal last year when you talked to us about it.
Well, just to be clear, so we have to
Oh,
get the line to them first, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a done deal yet.
No, there's going to be there's some ordinances that we got to bring to y'all, but yeah, there's it's not a done deal yet, but it also becomes it's more attractive for them to go there.
Yeah,
So-
tell us when we need to go.
It can do that.
I won't be at the May meeting. I've got a new grand niece on the way, so I'll be in Florida for the next meeting. So I want to take this opportunity to thank all the staff here behind the scenes. This is an amazing amount of work. You all do wonderful work for the city, and I wish all of our citizens were as aware of the hard work and smartness. I mean, you guys are all really, really smart, and I'm so appreciative of your education, your background, your energy, and your willingness to devote yourselves and your lives to our city. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, what she said, I'm a little bit ashamed of my own performance at my job, listening to you guys.
I think, yeah, just the only other thing I'll add to that comment too is I think I counted 5 new and updated master plans starting in 2025. That's going to be a lot on top of all the projects that you all are already always dealing with. But again, to your point, I think that is why we get such detailed and strong plans, that you are looking out, that far ahead. And certainly, I think, especially with a lot of these capital projects and infrastructure in particular, I think we've been a little bit behind the curve, and I know it's a little bit painful to try to get up to a point where we've got some good equity across the city. But I'm excited by a lot of these that are going to bring that. And I think that to the extent that there are some of these plans that we think are actually going to meet the needs through build out versus 2040 could be an interesting view. And I'm not saying go and do a bunch of work on that necessarily, but I think that is potentially a useful thing to bring up as we talk to residents and communicate some of these plans of, we're not just building this new road or this wastewater treatment plant, but we actually expect its lifetime to take us out through X number of years, right? If someone sees a $500 million project, as an individual, I'm like, feels like my taxes are going up, right? And maybe not, depending on how the city continues to grow out. But I think that long-term view is super critical in the way that we communicate these plans to make sure that it's clear. We're not rebuilding this road now and we're going to go back and do it again in 5 years. It's like we actually, because the master plans, because of the 5-year CIP planning, we have that sort of roadmap of how we're going to manage our existing infrastructure as well as handling our growth through the end of Aspire, and beyond in some of these cases.
Comment that I think we have a great team, and that we do. When I mentioned that we have innovative thought process and how we implement our projects and look ahead to always stay 10 steps ahead. So we're going to maintain that momentum.
Thank you. I have a question. Is there a white paper on this whole plan that's summarized in like a 2 or 3 page public communication, like where normal folks, like my buddy who was like, hey, our taxes are super high, where I go, hey, here's 2 pages. This is what it is. It was a couple of just really easy to read graphs. Like, is that part of y'all's process, or have I just not looked hard enough for it?
I'm not sure if there's like a report summary available. Is that something that
We can work on that.
Yeah.
We don't have one readily available right now.
Yeah, that's fine. And like echoing everybody, y'all doing great, right? The thing that stands out to me just as a observer is like this is the first 7 or 8 pages here are really good with our general funding summary that really nails it if you know what the next 100 pages are, right? And obviously, it's not my expectation in the slightest that everybody's going to get it off the top. But, when I think the thing that we're all experiencing as citizens who've been here and staff and everybody, we see the growth. And so some people are like, oh, man, what's happening here? And I know that as a citizenry, we've been very supportive of all of our bond issues and things. And so I think one of the reasons that we were really successful in the last 2 years with those bond issues is because the message was very clear about what we were voting for and what we were getting for our vote and our tax base. And so I think with this, it helps anytime that somebody goes, hey, why is this and why are we spending this and why is this going? If we just go, hey, this is why.
Yeah.
And it makes
Thank
sense
you.
to point to it.
And that's something we really strive to do also, is be very transparent and try to educate the public. So that is something that we really want to do, and we'll work to make sure we get that out.
Perfect. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other comments? Questions?
I do have one question. Is there a breakdown, which I think just copies or marries onto that question, is there a breakdown of like the funding, the grants that we get, and then impact fees, and then if impact fees have increased, is there a breakdown of that as well? Is it in here? And I just haven't thumbed through these many pages yet?
We will work on that.
Okay, yeah, because it'll help also with the the regular folks playing the tax bill, like, okay, the impact fees are taking care of this is where the grant funds have gone, things like that. Okay.
We're having Facebook fights for you, is what we're saying.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe bring your marketing people.
I mean, impact fees also impact developers, and so it's not always brought onto the public at first, but then the developers carry it on to the public. And so it'd be nice to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have the information. We can compile it in a digestible way and provide it. So.
All right, fantastic. Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Nice work, everyone. All right, we'll move on to our next agenda item this evening. Item 4, public hearing. The commission welcomes comment on item 4A this evening. Each person providing public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. They'll be asked to state his or her name and address for the public record. 4A, to receive public comment and consider an application to rezone an approximately 0.52 acre tract of land, platted as lots 1 through 3, Block H, Renbrar Addition in Travis County, Texas, from single-family suburban residential district to two-family residential district, to be known as East Hoop Avenue rezoning. Kristen. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and Commission. Tonight we have the East Hoops Avenue rezoning. The property is located at the eastern terminus of East Hoops Avenue, and it is currently zoned single-family suburban. It's an approximate 0.52 acre tract of land that's platted as lots 1, 2, and 3 of the Renbar subdivision. The request tonight is to rezone the lots from single-family suburban to two-family. So the lots were platted in 1909 as part of the Renbar subdivision and annexed into the city in 1965 when the city incorporated. In June of 1984, the properties were rezoned to suburban residential R3. Through code amendments and codifying of the UDC, it became the single-family suburban zoning district that it is today. So on the map, you can see the immediate adjacent properties surrounding the 3 lots are single-family suburban, but in the area of these 3 lots, you will see a variety of uses: two-family, MF10, which is our multifamily 10 district, and then as well as retail located to the south. So as part of the comprehensive plan, it creates neighborhood districts. These 3 lots are located in the central district. The central district encompasses all of downtown Pflugerville. It's home to key public facilities for the city. A large portion of this district is designated as suburban residential on the future land use map, and is also home to key economic corridors along East Pecan, East Pflugerville Parkway, and East Wells Branch Parkway. So the Aspire Pflugerville 2040 comprehensive plan calls this area out as suburban residential. Suburban residential is intended to create a low to medium density neighborhood with a suburban atmosphere. On the screen, we have the land uses that are deemed appropriate within this future land use, as well as the conditional primary uses. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property to two-family, which is intended to create a low to medium density residential area intended for duplexes and other similar two-unit housing types, and is used as a transition from more intense zoning districts down to our single-family residential zoning districts. Whoops. Okay. Staff is recommending denial of the request. The suburban residential future land use does not support the permitted housing types that two-family zoning district permits. And as part of the, per the UDC, the proposed zoning request must be consistent with the future land use map as adopted as part of the comprehensive plan. So this concludes staff's presentation tonight. We also have the applicant here. They have provided a letter that all of you should have next to your computers tonight as well. So we're going to invite the applicant. We do have microphones. don't have any slides prepared.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Jamie Hebert, and this is my mom, Elaine Hebert, owner of Charm Holdings LLC. We're here to discuss the zoning change for 3 lots at the end of East 6th Avenue, as discussed prior. From single family to 2 family, we realize the comprehensive plan seems to be an issue with this rezoning request, but we came here to make the case that this minor zoning change will have a positive impact on the street and downtown Pflugerville. Yes. Here's my slide.
They've got it in their packet.
Okay. If you look on the packet, first off, Charm Holdings LLC is being charged with the maximum property tax for the 3 lots. Currently, only 2 lots are usable because the single-family home on Lot 3 was moved there before the 80s and the 70s. If you look at the provided survey, you can see on Lot 3 how it encroaches over into Lot 2, making it unusable. However, we are being charged with the full taxation without the ability to increase the income, along with the ever-increasing taxes and inflation. With the zoning change, we would be able to move the home and all existing, I think there's a mobile home and stuff on there as well, all of that would be able to be cleared off to make use for duplexes. If you move to page 3, you get pictures of the current state of the lot. The existing mobile home on Lot 1 is in decent condition, but it continues to deteriorate based on its age. And Lot 2 is vacant because of the home encroaching over it. Lot 3 is actually, or the home on Lot 3 is approaching 100 years old, so it's not doing the best. This makes for a less desirable situation for neighboring homeowners. Furthermore, precedent is already set with multifamily structures located just over a block away, with an older apartment complex and a small condo complex located on the next page. You can see the pictures of that. We believe that this slight zoning change will still fit into what's currently allowed into the area. If you look over onto page 6, you can see the proximity of the current multifamily structures next to where the lots are in red. And then on page 6, you can see the type of structure being proposed would be just regular duplexes with stone and hardy plank to try to keep in with the current visual of the neighborhood. We believe this change will certainly revitalize an area that needs improvement, plus it's on the end of a short street as to not cause too much disruption in the neighborhood, and will only improve the street values and homes around it. We hope you guys will share the future vision that we have for improving these lots and downtown Pflugerville, and once again, appreciate your time and open for questions.
All right, we do have several citizens wishing to speak this evening, so we'll do that, and then if we have further comments or questions for y'all, we'll call you back up.
Thanks.
All right, the first one I have here, Ashley Walcott.
Hi. My name is Ashley Wolcott, and I live at 404 Geyser Avenue, which is directly behind the property in question. I believe it's Lot 1. We back up to the public easement, the city easement for Wren Avenue. I live directly behind the property in question. I'm not necessarily opposed to duplexes. However, a 2-story duplex would become all we see from our house, and the occupants would be able to see directly into our yard and our house. They would see directly in our windows. I have 2 young girls. They're 3 and 6. They play outside all the time, and I don't want people to be able to watch them. I'm sorry. Our backyard slopes upward towards the city easement for Wren, and my neighbors to each side of me have the same slope and the same views and concerns that I have. It's hard these days to find a safe place for kids to be outside, to be a kid, and our backyard is the safest place we have, and I don't want them or myself to feel uncomfortable. I don't want a 2-story. We've been here since 2015. We don't plan on going anywhere. We like the older area. We feel safe here. We want to keep that feeling. Single-story duplexes might be considered an improvement over what is currently there. I agree. I know what's back there. It's rough. We put a gate into the back of our house so we can access the public easement. I understand I didn't buy the land. I don't own the view, which we currently have a view of the Pflugerville Water Tower. but I don't want two-story buildings behind us. When we bought the house, we assumed the houses behind us would remain the houses behind us. Rarely do houses get knocked over or taken out and then replaced with new buildings. It's not a common practice. We actually contacted the city in 2019 asking if we could purchase the part of Wren Avenue easement behind our house, and we were told it wasn't for sale. If a one-story house is removed, we would like it replaced with a one-story house. So my dad is a developer. I realize what leg I have to stand on, and I'm here, and I don't want two-story. One story would be an improvement, because right now it's rat infested, snake infested, idling vehicles at 6 a.m. But I don't want people watching us either.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
All right, next I have Michael Mathern.
Good job. Nobody gets that last name right. I'm a New Orleans boy. Hi, Michael Mathern. I live at 402 Geyser Avenue, Ashley's neighbor. Hoops terminates at my back fence. Essentially, it runs perpendicular to my back fence. First off, I'm excited for the possibility of more family units in the area because, the housing is expensive. It's not available, so it'd be nice to have some extra units available for people to come move into the neighborhood. But I have one of the same concerns that Ashley has. It's privacy. If it was going to be taking out the existing structures and putting in single-story duplexes side by side rather than top to bottom, privacy wouldn't be an issue. Nobody would be looking into our backyards, looking at the back of our houses where the bedrooms are typically situated. But that would have been my question. One of my other questions was answered if the existing structure were going to be demoed and new ones were going to be built, because we've got a gentleman there who's got a trailer there. Trailer's dilapidated. The yard is essentially a junkyard. He does, engine work, mowers, cars. He's got so many different husks sitting in the back, piles of stuff, and he works on them. 9:30 at night. You can hear impact drivers going. 6 o'clock in the morning. He's got a big dually diesel motor that's idling for half an hour when people are trying to sleep. So I don't want more of the same. I don't want to compound that problem with double the units versus what I've got now. The other question would be probably the answer is no, but I'm wondering if any infrastructure improvements would come with this rezoning. Hoops essentially slopes down and just bullseyes the back of my property, so I have all that water coming from even the other side of railroad, drains all the way down Hoops and comes in. There's a little ditch and a berm. Every couple of years I ask the city if they can come out and dig the ditch out and build that berm up. Usually pretty prompt about it, but this year I've asked a couple of guys who are out there mowing 3 or 4 times, and they've gotten, it's on the list. But when it rains hard, that washes out into my yard, saturates my ground. I get standing water that actually comes up to the structure because I get enough of it to travel through my yard to get over to Geyser to drain out. There's no drainage, there's no storm sewers, there's nothing. That little ditch and a berm drains into a casement pond. And it just doesn't do the trick half the time. And then we get a lot of silt and other stuff that comes down with that, and it just fills that ditch up. So it'd be nice if there was some sewage and drainage to come along with any new zoning that comes along there. I was told that Wren was going to come through there at some point, and it just never happened, because why would you bring more people through there? So if the street's not coming, then I have no anticipation that there's going to be any sort of drainage or improvement there as well. So we're going to be building more structures, going to have more people living in that space, and I don't know, that's going to, the houses may improve, but the infrastructure down that end does seem like it's going to. Thank you for letting me have my upwards of 3 minutes to gabble on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Eunice Garza. All right, John Gonzalez. All right, we must have lost a few people. Mike Martin.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Mike Martin. I live at 100 East Hoops, which is a little bit less than 2 blocks east of this property. I don't see this property, but I'm aware of it, and I certainly agree with the need for renovation. I am concerned with adding more multifamily units in the Old Town area. Any of you who've been around for a while know that the Old Town neighborhood association has fought against incursions of multifamily zoning and commercial zoning into this area for going on 25 years now. I don't see a problem with taking these 3 lots and subdividing them, putting 2 houses on there. And in my heart, I don't really mind the duplex too much. I would worry about a 2-story for the same reasons these people have mentioned. But I worry most about the precedent that it sets. It's one more domino, one more multifamily unit in this area. And who's to say I have 3 lots in my house, and my house is 114 years old. And who's to keep me from taking that and applying for zoning and putting 3 duplexes on there, or 2? And then that's right in the middle of the neighborhood. And then you have somebody across the street. And sooner or later, the whole effect of the Old Town neighborhood is gone. And that's what we fought against. So I would ask you to consider the precedent that this could set and vote to deny this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert? All right.
I have handouts, if that's permitted. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Robert Van de Geyn. I live at 101 East Flugger Street, which is 1 house north of Mike. We own one of the old historic Flugger homes, the one with the white picket fence, which most people in Pflugerville know of. Essentially, I think I just want to make 2 points. One is it appears city staff recognizes that if this request came from a lot in the middle of, say, Saxony, the answer would be no. And for this exact same reason, the answer should be no when it is in Old Town. The second one is pertinent to what I just handed out and goes right to what Mike also said. We actually own 3 properties. We own the H.H. Flugger home, which is right there on the edge of the circle in the northwest side there. And then we own 2 lots across the street, which are actually slightly larger than the property in question. Okay, now if you go and you grant the request here, then I will come along next week and I will say, you know, I have a small house on one of those lots and an empty lot right next to it, and I would like to build a duplex with 3,000 square feet on each side, and we'll have a 6,000 square foot home, 2 stories, right dead center in the middle of these majestic old Victorian houses. Is that what we want? Okay. So I have nothing against the current owners petitioning. I mean, they can subdivide, I believe, and that is their right. I just don't want to see the precedent of a duplex being put there. My personal preference would, and I would actually also be okay if there was a request for a variance where the current house there stays and a relatively small house is built on the other side that's only 1 story. That would be in the spirit of that neighborhood and would also be in the spirit of subdividing, but that should be done through a variance so that there is no precedent for, you know, ripping out some old houses and putting a whatever size duplex in their place. Anyway, I'd like to also thank you for your time, because I realized that you put an enormous amount of time into being here every time, and you know, we show up only when it happens to affect us, and I really appreciate that regardless of the outcome of tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is anyone else wishing to speak in the public comment period? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public comment, and then we can further discuss.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Public comment is closed.
I have questions. Okay. Is there anything stopping the owner from replacing what is currently there with single-family residential instead of duplexes?
The lots are currently zoned single-family suburban, and they are currently permitted to remove structures and put back single-family residential that meets the regulations per the UDC.
Okay. I do, since the owner is here and heard the public comment, I do think, single-family residential does include two-story, right?
The height limit for a single-family suburban on a unit would be 35 feet, which, I mean, could be two-story.
Yeah, I would urge you to keep your neighbors in mind when deciding what goes on that lot and honor their comments. So improvements to the lot, including, cleaning out what's currently there and replacing it with something more profitable could occur with single family. And there was mention of an amendment process in that report. What is that process?
Are you speaking about the comprehensive plan amendment? So they are, per the UDC, they can request, they can apply for a comprehensive plan amendment. It runs similar to a zoning. There would be public hearings, and ultimately city council would be the deciding vote on that. They would need to provide the reasoning as to why they feel that the property needs to be amended. Those requirements are laid out in subchapter 3.4.5.
I love that you knew that off the top of your head, Kristen. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
I have a quick question. So there's 3 lots. Is there a reason why there can't be 3 homes on these lots? And I can't see the dimensions. I think the front is 180, but I can't see the back portions of these lots. So, and there's currently there's 2 driveways currently. There could be another driveway. What's the dimensions in the back? Why can't this be a 3 40s in the front?
So currently, one of the structures is built over a lot line, which would make it difficult to build on that second lot, to have a conforming structure on that second lot.
Okay. Because they also said they wanted to tear them down. Oh, I apologize.
Right. There's nothing to say they couldn't clear the lots and put in 3 structures that meet the code requirements to build those structures on those lots.
Okay. Just asking. Okay, thank you.
In
So-
either zoning or use, the impervious cover would have the same regulations. Is that correct? We're talking about one larger structure versus multiple smaller ones, right? I heard a few comments about drainage, so I'm asking about impervious
Correct.
cover.
As a residential structure, they have the same.
Yeah.
They would be required to provide the same amount of landscaping, which in turn would be the same amount of impervious cover.
So as part, I have a question. As part of the process, from my recollection, you go through a zoning request change, you come to city staff, you have a proposal to do something, you have some pre-application meetings, the process is explained, this is the steps that have to be taken, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and then they come forward to city staff and they make the presentation prior to coming to planning and zoning. Is that correct?
Correct.
So throughout the process, based on the recommendation of staff, it says that, obviously any zoning request must be consistent with the future land use of the comprehensive plan, or must be accompanied with a request for an amendment to the comprehensive plan. The plan was not submitted with the rezoning request. So was the applicant advised to complete the proposed comprehensive plan amendment?
At the PAC meeting, they were given information on how to apply for that comprehensive plan amendment, and they were told that the current request is not consistent with that future land use.
Understood. And so then you see it says here your recommendation is that we deny that request based on that grounds there, or is it just because it doesn't conform entirely with the community?
Staff's recommendation is based on the fact that the UDC requires the requested zoning to be consistent with the future land use map, and it currently is not consistent.
Understood. Thank you very much.
And just a quick question. So is this to build 2 duplexes or just to do 1 on each lot?
From my understanding, they would like to build a unit on each lot.
So six total units.
If they built,
3 duplexes.
if they built the 2 units per lot, yes.
My concern is that the neighbors are going to be impacted no matter what. They're currently impacted by what's there. And they will be impacted whether it's duplexes, 3 duplexes, or 3 single families if those structures are 2-story, as I understand it. So I don't know how, I mean, we want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to be happy. I want the people that have owned the property to be happy. And I want the existing homeowners and neighborhood association to be happy. Is there any way, we're not going to be able to say, you can build, but you have to make it single story. We can't dictate that, correct?
Correct. You cannot put conditions on zoning.
Okay. So I just want the neighborhood folks to understand that if we deny duplexes and they decide to build single family, there's no way as a commission that we can prohibit 2-story. We can only prohibit duplexes.
If they're not if they're not permitted within the zoning district.
And currently they are not.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, and to that end, right, so for the applicant as well, I'm a big proponent of if it's inside the bounds of your property, you get to build as you see fit, right? But the process has to be fair and equitable. And if you're given the opportunity to follow the process and the process isn't followed, then seeking relief from a commission is outside the process, and therefore it's not applicable to all. So that's really like the nature of my questions. I agree with you completely. You can't limit the height of development. If somebody owns a piece of property, they can build as they see fit, so long as that, it's not a hindrance or a harm to those surrounding. But the equity issue is the one that always comes forward, specifically here. That's one we've dealt with many, many times in other neighborhoods that are going through development changes, and they've very passionate residents have come to us and asked us to allow one or disallow this, and yet the owners are requesting benefit for themselves at the loss of another owner who's also, according to our laws, an equal in the eyes of the permitting process. So I think that's the issue that I stand with.
Is anyone interested in having the applicant come back up to address any questions, or you covered everything? Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to close discussion?
I think we can move on since we only closed
All right.
public comment.
Then my motion is to deny as the staff recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. You guys have it. So
Mr.
that was
Chair,
a.
just to make sure, your motion was to deny staff recommendation?
Oh, no.
Deny as it's written.
To agree with staff and deny the, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Make it sure.
Thank you for that clarification. 'Cause that would have been a different outcome.
Do we need to do that again? All right. My apologies.
All right. That concludes. We'll adjourn the meeting at 8:08. Thank you.